Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome all to today's reading from chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita, Attaining the Supreme. We will be reciting all the 28 verses from this chapter and their translations. They are supposed to be, I shouldn't be saying supposed to, they are very auspicious to read, hear or study during this Pitru paksha, these 15 days, this fortnight of the Pitris rather. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinitarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Verse 1. Kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottamam adhibhutam cha kim proktam adhitaivam kim uchyate. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the Self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. Verse number 2. Adhiyagya katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana prayanakale cha katham gyeyo asinyatatmabhihi. Who is the Lord of sacrifice and how does he live in the body, O Madhusudan, and how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? Verse number 3. Aksharam brahma paramam swabhavo adhyatma uchyate bhuta bhavo udbhava karo visargaha karma sangitaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the Self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma or fruitive activities. Verse number 4. Adhibhutam ksharo bhavaha purushaha cha adhidaivatam adhiyagyo aham me vatra dehe deha bhritambara. O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature which is constantly changing is called Adhibhut, the material manifestation. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods like those of the sun and moon, is called Adhidaiva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the super soul in the heart of every embodied being, am called Adhiyajna, or the Lord of Sacrifice. Verse number 5. Antakale cha mameva smarna muktava kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nasti yatra samshaya. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Verse number 6. Yam yam vapi smarna bhavam tyajante kalevaram tam tameveti konteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. Verse number 7. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mama anusmara mayarpito mano buddhir mame vaishyas yasamshayah. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. Verse number 8. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati parthanu chintayan. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. Verse number 9. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoranyas Yam samanusmared yaha sarvasya dhataramachityarupam aditya varanam tamasah parasatat. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as He who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and He is transcendental beyond this material nature. Verse number 10. Prayana kale manasa chalen bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva Bhruvor madhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purushamo paiti divyam. One who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and by the strength of yoga with an undeviating mind engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Verse number 11. Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yatyo vitaragaha yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshaye. Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkar, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman desiring such perfection. One practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. Verse number 12. Sarvadvarani sanyamya manoridhi niruddhya cha murdhanya dhayatmanaha pranamastito yoga dharanam. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. Verse number 13. Omitya ekaksharam brahma vyaharan mam anusmaran yah prayati tyajan deham sayati paramam gatim. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. Verse number 14. Ananya chetah satatam yo mam smarati nityashah tasyaham sulabha partha nityayuktasya yoginah. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in the devotional service. Verse number 15. Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanah samsiddhim paramam gatah. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. Verse number 16. Abraham bhuvana lokaha punaravartino arjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Verse number 17. Sahasra yuga paryanta marhayad brahmano viduh ratrim yuga sahasrantam teha ahoratra vido janaha. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. Verse number 18. Avyaktad vyaktayah sarvaha prabhavantya haragame ratrayagame praliyante tatrevavayak sangyake. At the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state, and thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again. Verse number 19. Bhutagramah sa evayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratrya game avashah partha prabhavatya haragame. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. Verse number 20. Parastasmat tu bhavo anyo avyakto avyaktat sanatanah yah sa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. Yet there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. Verse number 21. Avyakto akshara ityu uktas tamahu paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. That which the Vedantists describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, and that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode. Verse number 22. Purushah sa parah partha bhaktya labhyastva ananyaya yasya Tahasthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading and everything is situated within him. Verse number 23. Yatra kale tvanavritti mavrittim chaiva yoginah prayata yanti tam kalam vakshami bharatarshabha. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. Verse number 24. Agnir jyotir aha shuklaha shanmasa uttarayanam tatra prayata gachanti brahma brahma vido janaha. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god in the light, at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. Verse 25. Dhumo ratris tatha krishnaha shanmasa dakshinayanam tatra chandramasam jyotir yogi prapya nivartate. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months, when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. Verse number 26. Shukla Krishne gati hi ete jagatah shashvate mate ekaya yati anavrittim anyaya vartate punaha. According to the Vedic opinion, there are 2 ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back, but when passes in darkness, he returns. Verse 27. Naite sriti partha janan yogi muhyati kaschan tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna. Although the devotees know these 2 paths, O Arjun, they are never bewildered, therefore be always fixed in devotion. Now the last verse, verse number 28 of chapter 8. Vedeshu yagyeshu tapahasu chaiv daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanumay paiti chadyam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing austere sacrifices, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing the devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. And this brings us to the end of the chapter 8 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of attaining the supreme. Now I will quickly give you the synopsis of chapter 8. The first 4 verses, that is the verse number 1 to 4, they are the Krishna's answers all about Arjuna's first question, which he asks in verse number 1 of this chapter. Then verses 5 to 8, it is remembrance of Krishna at the death, answer to the 7th question. Verses 9 to 13 is remembering by Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Verses 14 and 15 is remembering by Shuddha Bhakti. Verses 16 to 22 is remembering by comparing natures of material and spiritual worlds, and verses 23 to 28 is all about remembrance by Bhakti Yoga is easier than the remembrance by the Ashtanga Yoga. So to attain Krishna, it is very important to remember him, especially at the time of death. Wish you all a very blissful day ahead. Chant and be happy. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.